The Mesillas Yesharim taught us that the foundation, the bedrock of our religion is this concept, this one understanding that Hashem created us to benefit us. Hashem is the meitiv, the giver. Hashem wants to share of His good with mankind, and therefore Hashem put us in this world, gave us a chance to grow, to accomplish, to reach that level of perfection that we could reach. And for eternity, what we made ourselves into is what we enjoy in Olam Haba, in the world to come. But the entire creation, the cosmos, everything within it was created for one purpose, to allow man to use this world to grow and accomplish so that he can enjoy in the world to come. But the ultimate purpose is for man's place in the world to come, man to enjoy their proximity to Hashem, dveikus, for him to enjoy the ultimate pleasure in existence. And that is, again, the Mesillas Yesharim tells us, the bedrock, the foundational principle of our religion. And we discussed already that it's the single greatest motivator because it's me, it's real, it's my life. It's certainly also an integral part of understanding all the mitzvahs in the Torah, because the mitzvahs are spiritual tools that help me grow and accomplish. But if I'm this body and I'm here forever, well, it won't make any sense. When I understand Olam Haba, I could also relate to Hashem in a very real way, because then I could see Hashem as the meitiv, as a giver, even though not everything in this world is so good, and there is pain, suffering, there are things going on. I could also understand myself, because again, then I could understand why sometimes I'm so into things and sometimes not. And this concept is exactly what the Mesillas Yesharim says, the underpinnings, but it requires a tremendous amount of work to understand it, to get it, and as we pointed out, lisbarer v'yis ametz, for it to become clear and truthful. Because the work of Mussar isn't just to intellectually know something, it's to feel it, to be margish it, to have it actually be so real to me that it changes my attitudes, my approaches, my behavior. And I believe that there are three obstacles, three reasons why it's very difficult for us to feel Olam Haba, the world to come. The first is because, quite honestly, I'll be dead. So listen, this is nice. This world to come idea, it's an interesting idea, but it has no relevance to me because I'll be dead. Meaning, I won't be there. I'll be dead. So, you talk to me about the world to come, my neshama having a good time. It's all very interesting, but to be very, very honest with you, it has nothing to do with me because I'll be dead. And the reason why we make that mistake is because we fundamentally misunderstand death. Even if you can get people to be real and think about death in any sort of serious way, they get this sort of glassy-eyed look of death. Who can know? Darkness. Maybe it's like sleep, like at rest. You go to the funeral home. You go to the basic chorus. You go to the cemetery. You'll see at rest. Rest in peace. Harvey was a good man. He's in his final resting place. And the way people think about death is like going to sleep. As in, I, the conscious, alert me who am speaking to you right now, won't be there. And then again, of course, then it's not relevant. Because if I'll be asleep or dead or whatever that means, so who cares? And we mentioned the fact, and Rabbi Salant explains that probably is the greatest mistake that we human beings make, because dying is not like going to sleep. It's a lot more like waking up. You see, I wear this coat. I wear this coat called the human body, but Rabbi Salant explains that when my body's put in the ground, I separate, but it's literally like taking off a coat. I take off the coat and I emerge, but it's me with all of my thoughts, all of my experiences that I've gone through, but it's a conscious, alert, thinking me who's right there. But the problem is that it's very elusive. And many of the words that we use not only don't help, they obscure it, they make it more difficult. As a high school Rebbe, I had what I called the four-letter word you weren't allowed to use in my shir. That word was neshama. Neshama. Why? Because neshama, my neshama is going to go to Gan Eden. My neshama is going to go to Gehenna. Not neshama. You, the I, the one inside, the one who thinks me. I am the one who will be there, but not my distant cousin, not some scaled-down version of me, not my ego, not my neshama. It's me, alert, awake, fully conscious. Just like taking off the coat, I separate and I emerge. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work because we make this mistake. We mistake the body for I. You punch out, you punched me. Now, a more accurate way of thinking about it is you punched the body that I temporarily occupy, and as long as I'm tied to that body, I'll feel the pain. But that's way too cumbersome, and it's certainly not the way we think. Ouch, you punched me. And we think of ourselves as the body, and so obviously when the body dies, I'm dead. Recognizing that the body is the housing, the shell. I'm not the arms, I'm not the legs, I'm not the head, I'm not the chest. I'm the one inside. It requires stepping away from our entire human experience. Because every morning of my life, every single morning of my life, I've opened my eyes and been inside this body. And I know of no other existence. And being able to visualize, being able to see myself not inside this body requires a little bit of work. And if you've listened to other Shmuzim, read the Stop Surviving, Start Living book, you'll see there are many mashalim, many different examples. But the concept is getting comfortable with the idea that I'm not the head, the chest, the leg, I'm the guy inside. And when you really work on this for a while and you realize it, I find people get this sort of like aha moment. Aha, I get it. Rabbi, I thought about it. I get it. I'm not the arm. I'm not the head. I'm not the chest. I'm the brain, right? No. Now, I've never been to an autopsy, but it is my sincere belief that they bury the brain together with the body. You see, I'm not even the brain. The brain is something that I have to think through. I have limitations because I'm housed in this physical body. I have to think through this concrete, slow, sluggish brain. You ever have one of those, wait, let me think that through. You see, right now I'm tied to this body. And right now I view things through my physical eyes, and I have to think through my physical brain. When I separate, instantly I become alert, awake, acutely aware of every experience of my existence. Because my human physical brain is so limited that it can only keep one thought in front of it at one moment. And after a little while, that thought is gone as if it never were there. But that's because the human brain that I'm forced to look through, to think through, is limited. You've had many situations a person loses their memory. Great Talmidei Chachamim even, towards the end of their life, maybe they lost their Torah learning. So what happens when they come to the world to come? That means it's gone? Imagine a man spent his whole life growing, accomplishing, and at the end he had dementia and he was no longer able to recall anything. So when he comes to the world to come, it's all gone? Not at all. It comes flooding back. Every experience of my existence, every thought, every interaction with another human being comes flooding back with absolute brilliant acuity right there. But not just there that I see it, I experience it. The same feelings, the same involvement, with a whole different understanding now. Many of those things I'll greatly appreciate even more. Many of those experiences I won't be too pleased with, but I am not the brain. I'm temporarily put in this body, temporarily have to think through it, but I am the one inside. And I believe that one of the best methods of understanding this more clearly is reading about something that's now very well known. I'll share with you what that is. In 1975, Raymond Moody created quite a stir in the scientific community. He was a physician working in the emergency room, and he chronicled a few hundred cases of what he coined as a new phrase called near-death experiences. These are people who were clinically dead. Either the heart stopped, there was no respiration. Point being, from any clinical measure, they were dead, blue in the face, stone cold. And if they were revived within 4 minutes or so, maybe 6 minutes at most, oftentimes they would describe an experience. But oddly enough, he noted that many of the patients described a very, very common experience. They would describe kind of popping out of their body, hovering above, watching things from above. But the oddest part was that they would recall details of what had happened when they were clearly dead, blue in the face, not there. In any case, he published this book and it became quite a stir because, in fact, it made no sense. What do you mean? He's dead. How could he be alive? The problem is, since that time, thousands upon thousands of cases have been reported and collaborated. It's become an accepted medical fact. We don't understand it. It can't make sense because he's dead. How could he be alive? But it's become accepted. And I believe that if you'll read a number of these stories, and you read about that eerie commonality, and you read about the fact that people remember and see things, what you begin to realize is, I get it. I'm not the arm, not the head, not the chest. I am the one inside. I'll share with you one example. There's a 44-year-old man who was brought into the emergency room stone dead. He had a cardiac arrest in the ambulance, and by the time they got him to the operating room, he was dead. In any case, before they put the paddles on him to try to revive him, the nurse reached into his mouth and pulled out the dentures. She put it into a drawer. They took out the paddles, make sure everyone was clear. They shocked him, didn't respond. Shocked him another time. The third time he responded. Eventually he got back a pulse, and within about a week or so, he regained consciousness. When he regained consciousness, one of the first things that he asked for was his dentures. They had been taken out when they put the paddles on, but no one could find them. A nurse had taken them out and put them into a rolling cart, into the drawer, but that cart was somewhere else, but no one remembered where the dentures were. No one recognized them. No one could find them. A few days later, that nurse who had been on duty when he had been brought in, who had taken the dentures out, came back, and she went to attend to him. And he said, wait a minute, you're the nurse who was on duty. Don't you remember you took my dentures out? Remember you put them in that cart, that rolly cart, in that cart? Well, in any case, they searched for that cart. They found it, and his dentures were, in fact, in the top drawer. But the problem was that she took the dentures out of his mouth when he was blue in the face, stone dead. He remembered her, saw where she put it, recalled it. And again, when you read about hundreds upon hundreds of such cases, you begin to get it. I am not the body. I'm not even the brain. I'm the guy inside. But again, it requires thinking about it. It requires dwelling upon it. It requires visualizing yourself outside your current existence. And again, the very first reason why it's difficult to relate to the world to come is because I'm so used to this current existence. And I'm so used to this body that I say, well, how can I enjoy the world to come? I'll be dead. It is true that my body will be dead, but I will separate. I'll be awake, alive, and that's the state I'll be in forever. So that's the first obstacle, understanding that it'll be me, that I'll still be alive. But there's a second obstacle, a second reason why it's very difficult for us to relate to the world to come. And that second one is, well, wait a minute. You're telling me Hashem created the whole world for me to enjoy myself in the world to come? Well, but if my body will be dead, how can I enjoy anything? Anything that I enjoy comes through my body. I eat, tastes delicious. I go to sleep at night, I wake up in the morning feeling revived and refreshed. Wow. But if I don't have a body, how could I enjoy anything? And this question is rather foolish, because if you begin to analyze the human experience, you quickly see that the pleasures that we take are rarely physical. Let me share with you an example. Imagine that you're on a boat and the boat becomes shipwrecked. Everyone else is lost at sea, and you find yourself on this deserted island, somewhere out in the South Pacific, but not a soul there. And you're walking for days, 3 days. You haven't eaten, you haven't drank, you're parched, you're famished. And all you can think about is the hunger, the incredible pangs of hunger in your stomach. Finally, under a palm tree, you see a brown paper bag rolled up. You run over, unroll the brown paper bag, and inside you see a peanut butter sandwich that's been baking in the sun for 6 months. Brittle, dry, but you're hungry as anything. You quickly wolf it down more quickly than you ate anything probably in your entire life. Here's the observation. You had a lot of desire, a lot of passion when you ate that sandwich because you were starved. But how much pleasure did you have? Do you think for the rest of your life you're going to savor that moment? When you're saved, are you going to make an annual memorial? Oh, the delicious peanut butter, the rancid flavor as it went down my throat, the dry, crackly bread as it scratched. I doubt that you receive much pleasure, and I doubt that's going to be the highlight of your life. You see, passion, desire is your appetite, your hunger for it. Pleasure is the sensation that you receive, that pleasurable experience, but they're distinct. And one of the difficulties that we human beings have is we mistake passions for pleasures. Passions are appetite, hungers, drives. Pleasure is the sensation, the enjoyment that I experience in that activity. And when you think about that, you'll quickly realize that yes, we have a lot of physical passions, drives, desires, but if you analyze the pleasures that we get, you'll quickly see that the vast majority of our pleasures, and certainly the greatest pleasures, are not physical at all. Let me give you a good for instance. Imagine it's a Sunday morning and you open the newspaper and you're kind of looking around and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, my number, I won $100 million. Wow! Stop. Who felt that emotion? Was it your arms, your head, your chest, your leg? Who felt it? And the answer is, I felt it. I felt extraordinary joy, happiness. Wow. But it wasn't my arms. It wasn't my head. It wasn't my chest. It wasn't my leg. I, the one inside. And when you think about the vast majority of the pleasures that we have, you'll quickly realize that they're not physical. When you meet your child for the first time in your life, your wife or your husband has a baby, and you hold this infant. There's a joy, a completeness that's indescribable, but it's not physical. I feel it. It's very intense, very real, but it's not a physical pleasure. It's not my stomach reporting a feeling of sensation and saying yum, but I sure experienced it, and it was not at all physical. And if you think about what people spend the vast amount of their energy, time pursuing, and if you think about what they're really focused on, you'll quickly see that it's very rare that they're pursuing physical pleasures. Money, honor, whatever drives a person, it's not the physical. It's the sensation, this inner condition, right or wrong. If a person is driven for honor, it's that sense of, wow, I'm in charge, I have power, I'm rich. But that feeling is not a physical sensation. It's I experiencing something, I experiencing a very, very intense emotion, but it's not my body. It's I experiencing it. And when you think about the fact that the vast majority of our pleasures, and certainly the most intense of our pleasures, are non-physical, you can begin to relate to the idea that when my body's put in the ground and I separate, I will enjoy immense, intense, unimaginable pleasures, but not because I have an arm, a head, or a chest, because I won't have any of those, but I will experience them as I experience it now. However, there's one more step. I remember one day, one of the fellows in my high school shir said to me, Rebbe, is it true that in Olam Haba, in the world to come, the tzaddikim sit around the table and they're involved in learning Torah? I said to him, well, that's one way of envisioning it. He said to me, Rebbe, that's not Gan Eden, that's Gehenna. Now, to a 16-year-old high school fellow, the idea of learning all day was not exactly pleasure, and if that was the image of the world to come, count me out of it. But I think that story illustrates a very key point. You see, it will be me there in the world to come, Mitzvah Hashem, hopefully, and I will experience intense, very powerful experiences. However, my value system is going to change dramatically. Those things that I put so much stock in this world today will likely be valueless and empty. Money, you know how much money I have? Wow, look at me, I'm rich. You don't take it with you, but not only don't you take it with you, there's not much to do with your $100 billion in the world to come, because guess what? There's nothing to buy, nothing to sell, and it's completely, utterly irrelevant. So clearly, if you love money, you're not going to love money in the world to come, because it doesn't have the same value. You see, I am there, and I experience things, but my understanding instantly changes. My body's put in the ground, and I separate in a total moment of clarity. I get it. I understand the value of every mitzvah. I understand the damage of every avera. You see, everything that we spend our lifetime thinking about trying to get, but we never really get, in that moment it hits me. Everything that in Mussar we're going to say, I know it intellectually, but I don't feel it emotionally. Well, in that moment, you feel it with absolute total clarity. It goes from the intellectual theoretical to the powerful knowing it, experiencing it. And obviously, my value system changes dramatically. As a very simple observation, every word of Torah is a distinct mitzvah by itself. For every single word of Torah that you learn, it's a separate mitzvah. And it's a mitzvah that's more valuable, arguably, than any other mitzvah, and surely more valuable than diamonds and gold and everything else that we could think is important. Now, could you imagine if for but a moment I could open my eyes with that reality? Could you imagine if I understood the value of a chesed, of helping another Jew? Could you imagine what my life would be like? Could you imagine if I understood what tshuva means? That I could eradicate, totally eliminate things that I've done wrong and just erase them, just take them off. Could you imagine if I really, really got it and understood the value of a moment, what I could accomplish? Could you imagine what my life would be like? Now, obviously, we'll never fully get it, because again, if I could get it, if I could really touch it, feel it, and it were real, I would lose free will, because obviously there's no challenge. But that's the point. As long as I'm in this body, it's murky. I'm sort of in this drunken state where I get it and I don't get it. But when my body hits the ground and I separate instantly, I get it with total, absolute clarity. And in that moment, every accomplishment of my life comes rushing back, and the enjoyment, the pleasure, the joy that I take from that is indescribable. The proximity that I enjoy being close to Hashem is such a powerful, unimaginable experience. But it's me, it's real. And the way to start feeling that is to relate to the intense experiences that we do have here. Keep in mind the fact that any experience here is so limited. Even if it's a great moment in your life, and you walk your daughter down the aisle to her wedding, and it's an intense experience. It lasts only a certain amount of time. It's mixed with other feelings and emotions. So even if you take the most pure, powerful experience in this world, it's very short-lived and very limited. But it's a good way to touch it, to feel it. So if the first problem with relating to the world to come is that I'll be dead, I won't be there, I'll be very much alive. My body's put in the ground, but I separate, I'm fully alert. The second problem is, how can I enjoy anything there? Everything I enjoy here is through my body. It's not true at all. The real enjoyments are not physical. It's I enjoying them. They're I experiences, but not I because my arm, my chest, my head felt it. I experiencing joy, happiness. And all you have to do is multiply that joy by 10,000 times, and you begin to have at least an eye glimpse as to what we'll experience there in the world to come. However, there's a third problem. There's a third reason why the world to come isn't relevant, and I believe that this third reason is more pervasive, more problematic than the first two. And the third reason why it's very difficult for the world to come to be relevant to me is because, well, quite honestly, I don't plan on dying. I have no real plans on dying. I'm just not going to die. And the problem is that if you think about it, it's probably true. If you really think about the fact that you're going to die, you'll quickly see it stops. I'm going to die. It's not going to not going to happen. It's not really. Now, you can know it intellectually. Oh, yeah. You could study the statistical odds of your staying alive at given situations, and you may be fully aware of people dying. But that's, again, in the realm of the theoretical, the realm of knowing it, feeling it, it's experiencing it. Really recognize that I will pass. My body will be in the ground. I will leave this world. Is so elusive and so difficult to really experience. And to be honest with you, I've worked on these concepts for a long time. Not only do I learn Mussar every day because I have a Masorah from my Rebbe, I went to Mussar Yeshiva, and that's a huge part of our growth. I dealt with the first parak of Mussar Sharm over and over. I wrote Stop Surviving, Start Living. I wrote the Torah Lifestyle. These are books that deal with exactly this, and I went through the whole funeral routine, my funeral, over and over. When I was writing Stop Surviving, Start Living, every chapter in that book I rewrote 10 times. And on the 10th time, when I wrote the eulogy part of envisioning what it's like when my casket's put in the ground and I hear the dirt come crashing over and I scream out, stop. As I was writing that for the 10th time, there were tears streaming down my face. I said, this is good. I got it. So here's the point. Obviously, I get it. 30 years I've been learning Mussar. I write about it. I talk about it all the time. So obviously, I get it, right? No. About a year ago, my cousin Butch passed away. If you would ask my wife how many times during this past year I said these words, I can't believe Butch is dead. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But I would say it regularly. Now, it doesn't make much sense. He was about 10 years older than I. And there are plenty of other people, listen, my mother passed away, my father passed away. I've been there. I've been at many, many funerals. I get it. I understand people die, but it wasn't real. And he can't be, what do you mean he's not, he has to be alive. How can he not be alive? My whole life he's been alive. What do you mean he's dead? And for me, it was a very powerful reality. Because as much as I think about it, dwell on it, write about it, it's all in the world of theory. In my reality, in my operating world, it's never going to happen. And the Chafetz Chaim explains that there's a very specific reason for this one in particular. You see, this is the ultimate deal breaker for free will. If I could ever get this in front of my eyes clearly, that I will pass from this world, and I will stand in front of the heavenly tribunal, the Beit Din Shamala, and they'll ask me, what did I do with my life, with my time? What did I accomplish? What did I do right? And what didn't I do right? If I ever felt that with any level of clarity, forget it. There is no such thing as free will. We're done. It's over. And as much as the body blinds me from understanding things, as much as the body blocks me from relating to spiritual concepts, it's almost like there were special blinders put into the mind of man, never allowing him to really, really feel death. Chafetz Chaim describes it as if there's a certain society of people that die. People have the sense that there's a group of people, a society of people who die, and I'm just not a member. Right? Nebuch, the old people die, the unfortunate people die, but I'm not a member of that group. And again, I've been there. My grandmother, when she was in her 80s, she was in a lake house hotel. I was in camp in the summer. So each week I'd go to visit her. I'd have off Wednesday afternoon, and I would go visit, and I would sit with her and her friends, and we'd be talking. And I remember vividly one time having a very pleasant conversation with a number of people all about her same age. And the conversation sort of changed when someone mentioned that so-and-so died. And another person said, "Oy, Nebuch, all the old people are dying." And I looked around the circle. There wasn't a woman under 80. Many of them were already at the point where they lost their husbands. There were certainly bubbies or alta bubbies, and yet that reality that they too are a member of that society didn't quite hit. Nebuch, the old people are dying. And this is part of the fabric of the human being. Because if it weren't there, I wouldn't have free will. The work of Mussar is to get it as much as I can. I'll never get it 100%. but to bring that concept up into the fore, to get it in front of me, to have it there, to understand that my time will pass. Now, when I say to this people, when I say a Mussar exercise is to envision your own funeral, to envision yourself in that casket. The next time you go to a funeral, put yourself, in your mind's eye, put yourself into the casket instead of that person. When I offer that as a suggestion to people, that's depressing. I don't want to be depressed. I'd like to share with you that if you get death clearly, it's not depressing at all. What's depressing is if you misunderstand life. You see, if you view life as this party, and the purpose of life is to be here and alive at this party, then you're right. When the party ends, it's very depressing because the party's over. But if you understand life, if you understand that we're here to grow, to accomplish, and then you're able to recognize there's a kates, there's an end, that is the most empowering, most invigorating concept because you get it. Oh my goodness, I'm here for a reason. I'm here for a plan, for a purpose. And that sense of empowerment propels you. You're driven, you move, you focus. You live a vastly different life. But it requires thinking about it, dwelling on it, using Mussar exercises, various different situations to get it as much as you can. And these are the three obstacles to getting the world to come. Number one, getting it, that it's going to be me. Not my distant cousin, my alter ego, my neshama, I'll be dead, asleep. Me. Like an astronaut. I take off that spacesuit and I emerge, but it's me right there. And it's forever, alert, conscious, the same way as I am now. And second problem with the world to come, seeing it, getting it, is the fact that it's okay, but I can't really enjoy anything because I won't have a body. But when you think about the pleasures that we have in this world, and then you recognize the intensity of eye pleasures, enjoyments, and the opposite. If you've ever been embarrassed, if you've ever said the wrong line in the wrong time, and there were a lot of people there, and it was a sense of, red comes to your face, heat starts searing you, there's a powerful sense of pain. But it wasn't your arm, your head, your chest that felt the pain. I felt it. The truly intense experiences that we have in this world are I moments. When I feel great joy, I feel great pain, but it's me. It's not my body. Much I experience through my body, but those pleasures are limited, very quickly passing. The real moments of life are I pleasures or the opposite. And understanding that allows me to recognize that it'll be me in the world to come, and I'll experience incredible pleasures and joys from what I did right, and the opposite, tremendous regret and embarrassment for what I've done wrong. But the most difficult obstacle is this concept that it's really going to happen to me. Not in theory, not like, to someone else, not to Nebuch, the old people or the unfortunate people, the sick people, but I too. I will leave this earth. It'll happen to me, but that requires more work than the other two because, again, it's very elusive and very difficult to really experience. But what if I could? What would my life be like if I could ever really get it? So I want to close with one last observation. If I could ever really experience for even a heartbeat what it would be like for me to be there, my life would be so different that it's hard to envision. Let me give you an example. Sheldon Adelson is a rags to riches story. Son of immigrants, he began his first business at the age of 12. He sold that business, bought another business. By the time he was a fully formed businessman, he already had bought and sold 50 different businesses. At a certain point, he began the Comdex computer show. That became a big function. He needed hotel space. He ended up buying a hotel. He ended up owning the Venetian, the Sands Hotel, one of the largest hotels in chains in Las Vegas Sands Corporation. And in 2003, Sheldon Adelson was a very wealthy man. Forbes magazine's right, and at that point he had $1.5 billion. King's ransom. Very, very wealthy. But in 2003, something interesting happened to Sheldon Adelson. You see, he took the Sands Corporation public. And from 2003 until about the mid-2004, his personal wealth increased by 750%. He went from being a very wealthy man to the fifth wealthiest man in the world, certainly the richest Jew in existence. And Forbes magazine loves to count other people's money, so they did the math. If you look at when he started at 1.4 billion and ended up with 20 odd billion during that year and a half, they averaged that he was earning approximately $1 million an hour. $1 million an hour. Now, could you imagine what life would be like if I were earning $1 million an hour, every hour? Oh my goodness. You sit down to the Daf Yomi, close the Sefer, $1 million richer. Whoa! Go for a Shabbos Shluf. Wake up $3 million richer. Wow! Life is amazing. It's astonishing. $1 million an hour. The value of one mitzvah so outshines that $1 million that it's hard to imagine. If I'm learning a block Gemara, learning a pasuk in Chumash, every time my mouth moves, every word is a distinct, separate mitzvah. The Chofetz Chaim counts 200 mitzvahs a minute. If you just count the words you speak as you speak, on your own, whatever it may be, word after word after word, mitzvah after mitzvah after mitzvah, worth more than $1 million. Now they're words, they're whatever. I say that they're valuable and more precious than Zav, Panimim Rav, but it doesn't mean anything. But what doesn't mean things now, when I leave this earth, my body's put in the ground, and suddenly I get it. Every accomplishment that I did, every time I davened and connected to my Creator, every time I actually worked on my character traits, every time I really looked out for another person and said, I'm going to do something for them. Every single mitzvah of my life, incredible jewels, incredible value. Now I say the words, then I'll experience it. The more I can think about the world to come, the more I can understand this reality that it'll be me, it'll happen, and the more I understand that it's going to really, really occur to me. And there my value system will be so different. The more I could touch that, I could feel that now, the more I could be driven. If a person does that, they wake up with a lust, a love for life. Let's go, let's accomplish. Every minute is another opportunity. But it requires dwelling on, it requires thinking about, getting it clearly in front of me till I feel it, till I experience it.